And today, as promised, we're just going to encapsulate OpenGL everything, because that was the previous days were quite painful, making silly mistakes. So we'll just make a few facilities so that we make much less mistakes. So yeah, let's go with that. I'm going to do that all day, and hopefully this will only last a single day. Hopefully. Well, obviously we won't really touch at functions I've not used yet. So yeah, I went with something quite simple, really, in terms of structure. I'll make that into a separate project. I do that as well now, but depends on people want my shitty code or not. Also depends on. There might also be libraries that does that out somewhere, elsewhere. Anyway, remaking the wheel, I guess. Oh, well, yeah, I can also simplify many names in the API, because the API does not support overloading. That's one other thing we can do. Right? So yes, let's get on with that. There will be just a huge lot of casting everywhere. Let's see. Can we get that done by today? We'll also deprecate most not useless function, but I guess sort of legacy functions that have not been deprecated for some reason. We'll probably make some kind of test of this library. Yes. That's all the functions we have to do. That's a lot. We're not going to do everything once, hopefully. Yeah, so buffer, just going to do everything basically. So buffer storage, that one will deprecate because we have an equivalence that you name buffer, like that. So I will just deprecate that one. And how do we deprecate? I think there is like that. Compiler tag. I've not figured out how to handle dependencies too, because all the symbols are defined in GLAD, which is a library to load OpenGL functions. And I do not have but yeah, I guess different users might want to use different loading libraries, but I don't think I can forward declare a type def. So forward declare type def. I also can't use can do forward type def, but to do you must first forward declare a. That's annoying because I do not have access to a. I don't really know how I will handle that. Probably I will not include GLAD in all those files. Just rely on the fact that the user will have to include these, yes, OpenGL loader before including this library, thing like that. Do I still have? Yeah, but the problem is I do not have access to definition. So I'll let GLAD for now and try to figure out something later. I might as well not be able to deprecate directly the functions for the reason that functions are not forward declared in GLAD, but they are defined as macros. Will that pose a problem? Might not. Just test that out. For example, if I search for, just want to check one, so yeah, it's typedef. They cannot forward declare unsigned int. I don't really want to because different libraries might use. Hi Spongy. Well, the plan for today is to suffer a lot. Yeah, I'm just going to encapsulate everything OpenGL, so. I might as well move to the just talking category. Well, welcome to the stream then. Yeah, so for now I will just, I guess, rewrite most functions with proper typing. Perhaps auto names, because I can use overload. I can also deprecate most functions that comes from older versions, I guess. Honestly, I don't think, well, we might be done by today, and I probably won't do everything today too, because, well, I probably won't touch function I've not used yet. Because I might not even know if the function should be deprecated or not. I've already lost so much time just passing the wrong parameters. Pretty sure it's worth it in the long run. I just have a few problems. Because I used signs everywhere. Yeah. I didn't even bother checking if someone had done it already. Or if everyone just do it when they start OpenGL. Might as well do it then. CP deprecated. I think there is an attribute. Single liter. The problem is though that I can't use OpenGL function names. Uh, for storage. Was it named buffer storage instead? Yes. Be really useful to have something like that. Parameters. I just wish I had the whole list of function declaration. Complaining about that. Might as well not even implement it. But included. As well do it here. Which functions? What the wrapper function? In theory, if it's inlined, it just disappears. Can try that actually. Either Explorer, something like that. Don't have access to NGL here, but normally on a small example, I don't know. And that's pretty much why I want all the function will be defined in a header so that they can be inlined away. That I guess. And just wrapper function. Can have another static cast, I think. Will I have any cast of the sort? No. So that let's just compute f of 1. Wrapper of no, wrapper of 1. Do I zoom in? Options. Don't see font size, but it's the same result, and I just want assembly. So without optimization, I do have a call to F. I enable optimization. Let's see for one. For space. Well, F gets inlined away because that might not be a good example. Yeah, with enough optimization, I think all the function calls just magically disappears. I just forward declare F. Oh, that works. Yes, we do have a call to F. Another one, so yeah. The performance cost will be null. If be honest, Rostrop did his job right. That's why I like compiled language, by the way, because with Python you do something like that, performances are gone. Bye to them. IDG. Welcome to the stream, where the only music is my voice. Might be a little bit disappointed. For storage. No, I'm not from Ukraine, I'm from France. France. Oh, Western Europe. Europe. I've struggled to learn English. Signature. Might be for you, but oh yeah, I can believe that. It's probably one of the easiest languages out there. I wouldn't want to learn any Asiatic alphabet either. French is quite hard too, or so I've heard. Just French and English. I did learn German for 8 years at school, but I can't speak a word of German. I was really bad at it. Yeah. Am I fluent in C++? Well, good for you if most languages are easy to you. I guess if you're referring to grammar and alphabet, yes, I guess Latin languages. German is not Latin. I don't remember how it's called. Finnish is easy, but tried. I think Spanish is really quite easy to. That. Well, I can't really tell because it's my native language, but foreigners at least tend to say that it's quite hard. And the language can get really complex. Why French is much easier to learn than English. Yeah, I guess most foreigners. Yeah, but I think most foreigners can speak it pretty well after sometimes, but writing it is quite complicated. French pronunciation is tricky. French verbs conjugations aren't so difficult. Because we have a lot of hands. Just a tiny bit. I've seen some Arabic with just Persian is odd. Is Persian a different language? Sorry about that. I don't have much culture when it comes to, yes, Arabic culture. Well, I did look into Unicode at some point, and rules seems quite complicated. Oh, you did follow. Thank you for that. Hope I will get to see you quite often. Uh, just come. Yeah, but work club games. Not really. I mainly take an interest in computer graphics. So everything that's is related to drawing something on the screen. But there are, I guess, many similarities with games. That's pretty much why I put the game development tag. Well, I can show you sort of have previous. Oh, it's complete. We'll just fix that quickly. Root here. And so we have project. And that should work. I've used Blender at, yes, multiple occasions, but not on stream yet. I guess my sort of mainly trying to do things that Blender already do, but just doing them by myself so that I'm really learning what happens. Yeah, on the previous streams we did some terrain generations, herbs distribution. It doesn't look like much yet. So yeah, I will spend, I guess, a lot of time in the next streams just doing more procedural terrain generation, everything that's related to it. Yes, for now we just have PlayStation 1 graphics. Also love that. You're right. We are not that far from the Minecraft demo, I guess. Get the first forward declaration of an unscoped enumeration must have an underlying type. GLNM, that's why. Yes, DG, you kind of got the stream at the worst time because, well, I guess for today it will be mostly just chatting. Because I will be doing some kind of low level, not so interesting stuff. Has to be done. So fortunate. Timber first. Should I replace void pointers? Oh yeah, I will do that for the enums too. Are they? You have mostly like that, I think. The only interrogation I have, I guess, is for bit sets. Can you do you still have the bit more with Selenium class? We'll try that as well. You have to define those use. Alright. We'll have to do that one. Bit field tags. It has to underlying type and stuff. Great. Yeah. Let's just see. Do I replace void pointers to byte? Can be used to access raw memory occupied by other objects, but unlike those types, it's not a character type and is not an arithmetic type. Byte is only a collection of bits. The only operators defined for it are the bit one. I think I will replace them. Guess that's the intended way by ++ now. When I come out, you would. Yes. But you're right. But they can still provide overloads, I guess. I don't like the idea of row pointers to begin with. I might as well make the yes, don't explicit make it template. Yeah, I guess. Well, I can just do that in the overload uh, name buffer. I can remove that because it's resolved by this parameter. So just storage should be enough. Template. Type. Same thing with the span, yes. Span is an amazing class because how many years did we have to wait for something so simple? C++20. That's amazing. Yeah, basically it's just when you have a pointer and a size that just couple them together in a span, and a lot of standard containers have implicit conversion to spans, so that's quite handy too. There is also an optimization for static size span, so that might be a little bit tricky, but font type. Oh yeah, so the fontsness of span is a little bit weird too, because you can't really cast I think string view came much more span. I never used string view. Class template basics view describes an object that can refer to a constant contiguous sequence of childlike objects with the first element of the sequence at 0. Returns a substring. That does. Oh, that's all the string. The CSTR member is gone, I guess. Yeah. C character. Yeah, I guess I never really got to the point of string views. Kind of behaved like a span. I don't know if you can give it anything that's not a character. Yeah, but if you have a string, might as well just pass a const string around. Can you modify the data inside? Yes, unless the parameter type is const. There is still some weirdness in the standard that's like stopped a lot, I guess. Which for some reason has 3 different versions. Yeah, but you can as well make a span of hello and do s equal std span of hello. Will that work? Failed. I just need to enable the latest standard. So yeah, it works as well. And what's the type of that? Where is exec? Oh, wrong one, but yeah, that's just yeah. Don't know if you can see, but all name wrangling is horrible in GCP. But KC, so it's constant char. I can just compare it with type ID of root span const char. Yeah, the first part does this. Seems like it mostly. But since span came years after string views, why we have string view. C++. But there is another thing still. Character threads. Might want to change for Unicode handling or something like that. I don't really know. And you have, I guess, string manipulation member function. Which arguably should be free functions and not member function. Do you have hashes too? Hash, yeah. And easily implement it yourself, I guess. Yeah, so indeed, I don't really see the reason to have string view. Might be one I don't get, but no, I did not watch this basic stream for more than just text. Right. Oh, that's 4 minutes long. I guess we can just watch that. Audio.
No bio. My name is Brian Ruth. I work in embedded systems for Garmin. So my talk's about standard basic string for more than just text. So I want you to think about, back when you first were introduced to C++ and just kind of how you thought about things and selected the containers that you use. The other subtitle is How to Write Code No One Will Understand. Given an arbitrary length list of bit states, modify the list by toggling the state of each bit. Now, if you just start out, the basic choice is always going to be vector because you don't know how long the list of bits is going to be, and always choose vector. And a bit can either be on or off, so bool is the obvious representation for it. So that gives you something like this. Throw in a nice range 4, and yeah, this should work, right? Well, this is where you find out about vector of bool. You go to compile it and you get an error like this. And it really doesn't tell you why vector of bool doesn't compile, that it's not a container, and that the things that it's returning aren't really bools, they're kind of things that pretend to be bools. But, okay. So, vector of bool aside, why do we choose vector? Why is that the default container type? Well, first of all, it's contiguous memory. So, it's easy to allocate, you can iterate through it easier, you can pass it to C functions. It also grows as needed, so if you don't need much memory, you can have it short. If you need more, you can make it longer, and then you can make it short again once you don't need it. And you also can get random access. So it actually plays well with C as well by having pointers to little different parts and playing with the functions like that. So what other container has these properties? I think I kind of buried the lead with the title of it, but standard basic string. Most people think of it just for character representation, but really it is a templated container that has all those properties. And it turns out, just change the type. It does exactly what you expect it to do. But what about real types? I mean, Boolean, that's not much different than a character, right? So bits have a direction. They're usually named so you know what the bits do. And let's just modify our task because it doesn't make much sense to toggle input bits. So we just want to toggle output bits. Well, that works too. So, class bit direction, you got a string in there for a name, a struct. You can throw it in there and it works almost exactly the same as a vector. But another thing that's kind of cool is when you use basic string, you also get to use the string API. So one of the things that I've done in the past is I generate timestamps based on a packet index. And then you want to aggregate those timestamps together and pass them to some C API to manipulate them in some way. So vector has a very cumbersome append syntax. So I couldn't find a way to make it, not using ranges, to not have a named temporary in order to append to a vector. And the slide also demonstrates where I fall on the const and auto side of things. But as you go through, do the inserts, call to C, it works. Changing a vector to a string allows a more straightforward syntax that other languages are used to. So you can actually use the plus equals, you can call it to data, and it really performs just as well as the vector does. But can basic string actually be more performant than a vector? Thank you. Vectors always need to call new and delete if you want to do anything with them. So you can see right here, just creating a vector of points. The size is obviously 3, but even with optimizations turned on, you got calls to new and delete. Small string optimization happens even for types that aren't strings. So here it sees right through the fact that there are 3 points, returns the size as 3, compiles down to move as 3. So like LLVM and Boost have tried to come up with small vector optimizations. Well, string, you get it for free. So it's only the beginning of the interesting things that you can do with string. I didn't go into string views or substrings or any of the find and replace type operations. There's some really cool things you can do when you take basic string beyond text. But I'm not advocating that we get rid of vector, but string's a lot more powerful than people get it credit for.
Yeah, small string optimization is a clever one. So I guess what I will remember from this is that instead of just do so I will be doing that from now on. The biggest point, you actually get a correct vector bool. That's just dumb. Anyway. Back to the GL. That's something I never understood with, I guess, strings, that, well, generally speaking, the standard library just gets everything right and tends to have minimal interface, but that's the case for everything except string, which has a lot of member functions that you could just implement with the algorithm library, but for some reasons they did everything as member functions, and you don't get to use those algorithms on things that are not. Kind of weird. Deal with it, I guess. Yeah, so leave it be. We'll have to repeat that now. That could be a performance lost. That static cat right here will depend on the type of that. Let's see if the two types have different length. That will actually produce some assembly instruction. Yeah. Might be one problem, but well, that's not too big. So data of S, right? One is the flag. Here I have the one for all types. Just storage of B. I can call S as bytes. It's quite handy. It's just the flag. So that should handle everything. GL name, buffer storage, yes. I have to cast the buffer because I don't want any implicit conversion. Do I? Pretty sure I don't. Yeah, so data and flags. That compiles. Warning. For storage that's duplicated. Right. Still in a target. Might as well put proper typing on deprecated function. Should I implement them anyway? Won't do it now. Will just be a waste of time, but buffer data I probably want to deprecate also. Main buffer subdata, you want that one. one data to come with. So, what are the parameters? One more span. And subdata instead. Exact same principle as before. Still needs to byte. Details are. And buffer B. We'll probably do a wrapper type for offset too. So if that's a good idea. We'll just keep it simple for now. Set here. Oops, here. Hold that one. Set. That. Set. No flags. You have error squiggles on span. Been having this problem for a long time and really get why. It must not be up to date. My data. And data. Name buffer sub data dot hpp. And if you have errors, rogue semicolon, right? Just wrong function. Yes, be correct type. That's true. Oh, that's constant. Const here. Yes. Alright, that's one more function done. The clear versions, I don't think I've used them before. We'll probably do the map, unmap. I've never used invalidate functions too. Don't really get what they are for. Buffer subdata. I've heard about them for textures mostly. In theory, if the content of the buffer are going to be overwritten, it makes absolutely no difference if the previous contents were trashed or not. You're absolutely right. In a sense, whether you call jail buffer data or invalidate buffer data, you're achieving the same end goal. The difference is that the jail buffer data, you're more saying, I need this much memory now, which in turn means that the whole memory is discarded. However, with invalidate buffer data, you're saying, I don't need this memory anymore. Same goes for invalidate other functions, as well as invalidate functions. The key here is that if you have a buffer and you currently aren't needing it anymore, however, you're keeping the handle for later use, then you can call invalidate buffer data to tell that the memory can be released. Oh, alright. So that's equivalent to a delete, but I guess the object name remains valid. Then you can probably... Yeah, so I guess that's the release version of buffer storage. Yes, that's is. Map function. Map buffer range. Name buffer range. Cool needs this one. Named buffer. Maps buffer range. So how do I clean those up? That's not the name version. So mostly same includes as before. That's what I need. So that becomes buffer B. I just need to inline it. And in return, I can return byte per. It's possible to do something slightly better than length. Specifies the length of the range to be. That specifies the starting offset within the buffer of the range to be mapped. Might as well return an here. Should I? Problem with that is that I would end up copying the size, but having a span is much better than a pointer, I guess. Buffer range. Was that the range version? Oh yeah. So GL prefix everywhere. It's the offset. So just have to return a span. What are the constructors of that thing? Once an iterator, which a pointer is, and count. Still would like to. Might want to give it some sort of type. I'm hesitating here. So just help map name buffer range. Will be just cast that to the actual value of the buffer name, like so. The offset, length, and the access mod. With that, I can just return to byte, yes, of the mapped range and the length in bytes. Now the problem I have with that. I want to type that directly. I do something like mapping the node. Suddenly, there's a template function. So type and type. Just type this, and instead of length, I will call it count. Do the forbidden function reinterpret cast. Type yes. Do I have to specify the type of the span? Probably not. Way. And them directly. That should be length divided by size of type. That's right. No, that's just count. That's count type size of. Why? I could in fact just that. But I don't have to rewrite it everywhere. No, not. give it b directly, give it the offset, and give it count times size of. Type yes, and offset. You and just here instead. I have to write that. Might work. Do I have the length in the usual map buffer range? Yeah. Per map name. Was there? Isn't a length. Because the other one will just return. Ah, you don't. Guess I will just return a pointer instead of a span, so that it will be coherent with the previous one. So return. But I could actually use that directly. Count. I don't really know if I want to do that. Go M, and that will be that thing. Let's be offset. Now count times size of type. Access, yes. Just instead return a regular point. Which will reinterpret cast to type. And yes. We'll have to static cast that, so will I? I don't really know. Include everything. That one actually comes first. Here you go. Cannot return void pointer to byte pointer. Also need to reinterpret that one. Yes, I will also have to make an enum for this bit field. and the regular app version. Same one but similar. That remove the range though, and count. Almost the same thing, right? Remove those. No more complaints. Invalidate buffer data, buffer subdata. Oh, but you can also invalidate buffer subdata and not the whole buffer. Ah, that's kind of weird. Have I ever used get buffer data? I don't remember if I did. Might be useful to have them. Not use them, so I will leave them aside for now. Yeah, probably. I guess I will just use them in due time. I will have an actual need for them. The rent. They'll get texture. Yeah, that was. Get texture image, yes. Is the pixel unpack buffer wizardry. Right. I haven't tried out transform feedback yet. Too. Might try to do something with that. Yes, they are mostly, not really mostly, but at least used in peloton transformation and particle systems. If I understand correctly, you can just retrieve everything after the geometry shader. So you store that into buffers, I think. Yeah, I will have to. Well, I guess with compute shaders, you can basically do anything that you would have done with transform feedback. Yeah, but I don't know. Well, I can't really speak because I know how they work. But But I think they did transfer back as an extension Vulkan because of wine and emulation stuff were hard to implement. Alright. Things perhaps the simpler thing to do would actually be like, the simpler things to do would actually to just look into compute shaders instead of transform feedback. Still feels like it's a big part into modern OpenGL tutorials. Otherwise, they would have had to implement transform feedbacks, which yeah, I wonder about. So, we did buffers. What's next? Shaders. Will be long. That's a big one. Hi, Garail, I guess. Shaders from game effects and post-processing. Basic of OpenGL. Where should you start? That's a good question. Should you start with OpenGL? I will answer yes in a sense, because with OpenGL you have to understand everything to make the simplest thing to work. And that's kind of something I feel like, where with Unity or I guess Big Engine for examples, I have some friends that want to go into that and, well, they can make some effects, but they don't know, I guess, the full capabilities of the hardware. Because in a way they are constrained with the framework, which is quite good really. But so learning with at a high level, I guess the problem is that it's hard to think outside the box. Where I guess on low level you have a better understanding of hardware and I guess basic capabilities of things. Well, I'm not an expert on on the other end, so that's my feelings on the matter, I guess. But and for example, if something just like I guess lighting and shadows, uh, you won't get much understanding if you're not working it from scratch. Because I guess in modern frameworks it's already all done for you. But it really depends if you want to be on the artistic side or on the implementer side. Otherwise, you could play around in some game engine and make shadow. If you're more into the artistic side, I guess I probably won't recommend OpenGL in that case. I guess I'm referring from what I'm actually seeing artists do. It's like depends really. Unless you want to get into really technical stuff or complex lighting and shadows, but if you're working with modern frameworks, probably have enough to work with. Yeah, that's a great goal, but that's on the technical side of stuff, not really artistic. I don't know. Vulkan for the latest version. Yeah, but if you want to contribute to the, I guess, Vulkan implementation, you will have to know about Vulkan and stuff. So yeah, in that case, you might as well start with OpenGL. Again, that's, I guess, I'm not an expert, but I feel like Vulkan is hard to get into without passing through OpenGL first. I guess if you just want to make stuff directly and make new stuff, that's also a thing. Because I guess before you have any productivity with OpenGL, that's a long way off. And you have, yeah, or just go with 7 3D renderers that are not for video games like Blender, Maya, or things like that. And there is actually, well, the thing is that I guess most have trouble expressing that. I guess most inspiration I get from are mainly from artists, and I look at maybe a tutorial for making material or anything like that. Those guys are actually working on frameworks and softwares, not really bare OpenGL. Unfortunately, the book of shader has been mostly discontinued, so you still have some, well, you can still learn things from it. And I guess that's what you have to understand with shaders. Uh, Shaders are a tool, and you have to be pretty specific about what you want to do with them. Because otherwise, the question you're asking is, what are all the things I can do with a hammer? And that's a pretty hard question to answer. Do you want to do lighting? Do you want to do rigging and later on animation? Do you want to do ray tracing, spear tracing, things like that? Do you want to work with rasterization? Uh, from what I see, that's a lot of very low-level stuff here. Yeah, that's still interesting. Spongy talked about it. I also recommend Shader Toy if you don't know about it. So it's mainly a collection of shaders. Mostly everything, but I guess that's pretty unusual on one side too, because that's not what you really find in video games, because most of everything in there is done with spear tracing. Part of code. That what I was about. Which Yeah, but that's still fairly easy. That a series? Inigo Quiles has awesome stuff too. I think he still has a few tutorials in there. But again, the problem with the thing with Shadow Toy is that you will only find things that are related to a technique that's very similar to ray tracing, and not really rasterization. He still has some amazing tutorials on beginner topics like SDFs. Oh yeah, that's really quite advanced. I guess he goes into really complicated stuff, but still has some interested things that can give you an intuition about it. The best advice I can give you, I think, is just you have to have a clear goal about what you want to make. With shaders at least, because otherwise it's like trying to find everything you can do with that tool. That's a weird question to ask, I guess. Yep, so good luck with that. Yeah, no problem, my pleasure. Have a good day too. Might keep that link. Yeah, just have to make one thing at a time, one step at a time, so you don't get too discouraged. And perhaps you will just end up encapsulating OpenGL like me. Right. You have the enumeration. Well, to be fair, I really struggled with computer graphics when I sort of knew that it even existed. Like, that already was some kind of big step. That's such a broad domain. All beginners, me included, have that problem of where to start. Great shader. Great shader. I also need delete shader. Oh wait, do I even have delete buffer? Delete, of course. Delete buffers, that's the same exact as before. How did you get to know about computer graphics Spongy? I feel like it has been the case for most people. They just... I guess you just tap into computer graphics accidentally because you just want to render some kind of things on the screen and you end up with OpenGL. You don't know what you're stepping into. And then you have to deal with projection matrices. I guess I did tap into computer graphics with games too. Yeah, but at first, I guess you want to make games and you end up in something that's much larger than just games. And you have everything that comes with it. Delete per. Oh, that's a reserved keyword. That's painful. Did you end up making games at all? Uh, yes, that's the wrong function. First, yes. Out, right. Create, games. I even a team in university, mostly learning games and yeah, so learning games? What do you mean by that? Oh, I see. Games for learning. I saw a few people, just what, a year ago, that had a similar plan to that. Or stuff in might be amazing. Is this what's called serious game, something like that? Or is this purely education? It's serious game. flight game is a game designed. The better word. Oh yeah, so that's not really. It's more on the game side than simulation. Yeah, but might be pretty amazing. Random simulated. What's that? Ah, right. For someone who, I guess, don't really like maths, you did go into VR, so. Mobile. Are you last qualified name is will be one. How did I do that? All right. Get rid of the wrongs. How about making a game in VR to teach math to people? Wish someday you would get something done. Own, I guess. That's something I really learned to respect, I guess, when, you know, sometimes you just play a game and it's so crappy and it's terrible. Everything is saying bad things about it, but when you think about it, there's still someone that went and did it and spent many hours on it, and even if it's terrible, he did finish it. Well, sometimes it's really garbage. Uh, AGL, yes. Working. My brain is not. That's fine. Yeah, create shader. I think it works roughly like that. Create shader program. Just need it's a type. Shader type. Something like that. GL create shader and just give it a type. And since I have a type for the parameter, I can just do nice overload on that. So return create shader. All.apt. Programmer one set. Include whatever this is. Delete shader, yes. That's a exact thing, just need shader type. Need delete and delete shader. Shader S. That's void. That's nothing. And delete shader. I don't really get why they did not make a version that creates multiple shaders at once, because they do that for all other objects. Static cast that, the actual type. Delete shader, yes, and just give it the shader. Null. Take everything here. Just create program. That's a lot of redundant work. God damn it. Delete program. Program once. And include everything once again. So there isn't any program type, hopefully. Just return a program. GL create program. Really make that one because I don't have any. Overload on. Coordinate. can actually do a small trick for you. Where is program? I have one. That's you come with me. And time for some wizardry. Correct. Program tag. And can I do that? Can I do it like that? Program. Wait, let's go. We'll probably just make it like that. Fine, and call the function just directly program. So return create program. That's much better. We'll probably do the same for later. If I can leave the return type, it's quite short, so. Yes, program, yes. That's stuff now. So program.hp. Shader source. So shader source.hp compile shader 2 .hp, yes. Shader binary, well. Is there an easy way to pass an object to fan? You have to write. You want to pass a single object? Yeah, single object, I think that fortunately might have to might have an idea because you have an overload on arrays. That's a range that won't do. So let's see. Void f stood span of ints and s, yes. And if I call f of 4, that will probably not work. With curly braces might work. Doesn't. And stood span like that. Late argument deduction failed. What with that? Yeah, the one you give works. I'm just trying to find a short hand, I guess. It's not true.